こんにちは。ゼルダの伝説シリーズプロデューサーの青沼です。ゼルダの伝説ブレスオブザワイルド続編の発売時期に関してお知らせがあります。本作は2022年に発売を予定しているとお伝えしていましたが、開発にもう少しお時間をいただきたく、発売を2023年春に変更させていただきたいと思います。楽しみにお待ちいただいている皆様、大変申し訳ありません。続編の舞台は前作ブレスオブザワイルドでの地上フィールドだけでなく、空の上にも広がると前回お伝えしましたが、拡張された世界はそれだけではなく、そこで皆さんを待ち受ける新たな出会いや新たな遊びも前作以上に多彩なものとなっています。そうした続編での体験を特別なものにするべく、開発チーム一同引き続き総力を挙げて取り組んでいきますので、どうか今しばらくお待ちいただければと思います。今回のお知らせは以上となります。ありがとうございました。
Hello, fellow Zelda fans, I'm Brascoin, and we just got to see 229 frames totaling a whopping 6.28 seconds of brand new video footage for the sequel to The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild. And since we're starved for any news regarding this elusive Zelda game, it's time to overanalyze the crap out of these 6 seconds, so let's dive in. At first glance, there isn't a lot shown that we didn't already know. However, when we take a closer look, we actually get quite a bit of new information. First, and one of my favorites, is we get a shot of our hero's face. No longer is it kept mysteriously out of our view. This is the hero of the wilds from Breath of the Wild. So I think we can finally lay to rest the theory that we have been seeing the hero from 10,000 years ago. Frankly, I never really liked that theory, and I can't believe it got as much ground as it did, so I'm glad to see that this is Breath of the Wild Link's face, and that is the hero we are playing as in the direct sequel to his game. The second thing I noticed is a pretty small detail regarding Link's garb. When the last trailer came out, I theorized that upon Link's garb there was what looked to be a dragon stitched into it, similar to the garbs that the champions wear with their divine beast embroidered onto it. Well, now we got to see the other side of it and got a view of the complete garb. Not a dragon. So I think my theory of a secret dragon divine beast is not likely. The third small detail I noticed in this video was about the shield we saw in the last trailer that coincidentally enough once again returns to this trailer. At first glance, it is very similar to a Sheikah Eye, but I think it would be a mistake to call it as such. The bottom of it is in no way a teardrop shape, and overall resembles more closely a body with a head and a crown, and some sort of weird arms, similar to the sages from Twilight Princess. Not completely, of course, but closer to those than the Sheikah Eye. The fourth small detail I noticed in this video was a return of those strange alphabet symbols from the first and second trailers. As we already have a pretty extensive ancient Sheikah alphabet placed all over Breath of the Wild's Hyrule, it is unlikely to be any form of Sheikah script. A lot of people seem to be in the camp that that text could be Gerudo, seeing as the first place we actually see the text is on the seal that holds Ganondorf in place. Those swirly green letters coming out of the hand, those. The second place we see them is on the floor Link is lying upon in the second trailer when we first see a close-up of that green hand. But we also see it a third time. In this small snippet in the Sky Island showing the Master Sword we were all no doubt focusing on, those same symbols can be seen upon the ground behind Link. The Gerudo text would have little to no ability or reason to exist up here, and it clearly isn't Sheikah. That leaves two options. The first and most obvious option would be that overly used Z-word tribe, and the second less obvious answer and least likely answer would be a fourth tribe that has yet to be introduced. Do with that information what you will, but there is yet another nail in the coffin for my thoughts here. If we zoom in upon the back of Link's hand as Link is seen grabbing the Master Sword from his back, there is an obvious yellow glow coming from the hero's hand. Upon the back of his hand is a small symbol glowing with gold lettering. It does not appear to be a Sheikah symbol or a Sheikah eye of any kind like many have guessed in the last trailer, nor is it the Triforce. Actually, it looks a lot like the symbols on the floor behind Link. The fifth and more obvious detail is what we see happen as Link actually draws the sword. Hovering before Link, there is a glowing yellow light, one which he pulls his hand away from before drawing the sword. As he pulls his hand back to draw the blade, his hand remains glowing independently of the ball of light. It is reasonable to guess that this light in some way is infusing either the hand or the sword with some kind of power. Given that the sword is also glowing, it is likely that the sword is receiving some sort of repair or power. But as shown in the second trailer, that same yellow glow also has the power to freeze time, so perhaps the two are linked in that manner or some other way. Perhaps that since it deals with time and the blade was once the key to time itself, Link is restoring the timekeeping properties of the sword while gaining the ability to use them through that arm in some way. The sixth small thing that I noticed as I was watching this video was that the same crossword-like pattern that adorns Link's arm also adorns his bow. On the bow, the pattern appears as a dark brown color on each of the ends of the bow. That same color of brown is used to draw the symbol we see on the shield I mentioned earlier, so the three are likely connecting. Furthering the shape and design similarities we see here, we also have the stone golem looking monster from the second trailer. They all have the same notching pattern of square edges indicative of a more basic primitive culture, yet having seemingly otherwise advanced capabilities. Overall, it is likely that they originate from the same tribe. The last two details I feel are 100% obvious and quite frankly were the two biggest details I noticed on my first view, but I wanted to cover them here as well just in case y'all managed to miss them. So the seventh thing I noticed was of course the holy cow, that Master Sword. The Master Sword is absolutely wrecked. Physically beaten, holes eroded away from it, this sword looks like it was dipped in some pretty powerful acid. It's obvious from this that there will be a quest to restore the Master Sword at some point in our journey. Whether that is through flame purification like we saw in Skyward Sword, or through reforging the blade like we've seen in a few other Zelda games, we'll have to wait and see. But this is a great way to nerf our power without making us feel like it's just a mechanic to make us start over at Wimp level 1. Even though that's likely what it is for, at least it won't feel like that. I'm personally hoping for reforging the sword myself, as the Goddess Sword was already made at the beginning of Skyward Sword, and we've already bathed it in the Sacred Flames in the HD remake of that title quite recently. So I want to go on a quest similar to that of Minish Cap as we hunt down some elements needed to reforge the blade, or some other mechanic altogether. I would personally love to know what this beast of a blade is actually made of. And what better way to bring back the Picori than in a similar manner to how they have been used in the past. After all, the developers did say that the Picori were thought about when making Breath of the Wild, yet they couldn't find a legitimate way to incorporate them into the vast world, so this could be the perfect opportunity to use that scrapped idea. The eighth and final thing that I noticed for this small snippet was the fact that the Master Sword was glowing blue. Remember how at the end of the trial of the Master Sword, we seemingly heard the Master Sword speak to us, and Zelda frequently mentions, "Can you hear the voice of the sword?" A faint but clear jingle? Well, Zelda fans know that that was the sound of Fi, the spirit of the Master Sword. And what did we have come out in between the two Breath of the Wild titles? That's right, Skyward Sword, where we get a whole earful of Fi's sounds. That same blue aurora encompasses the sword each time Fi speaks to us, whether it is to Link or to Zelda. And I am now certain we will see the return of Fi in some form as she guides us to the materials we need to restore her to her former glory. Perhaps along the way we'll find the Triforce. No doubt we'll uncover another wealth of lore for the series as a whole, and specifically this game. And of course, we're bound to have a bunch more questions to work through and to discover as we get to play the game when it does finally come out. We'll have a lot to look forward to answering on that. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm actually pretty hopeful that we will slowly get fed more and more Zelda news as this year progresses, but in light that they just pushed back the date, I don't foresee that actually happening, especially not at E3. But until then, I do have a few theories in the works and I hope to get them out soon. I also have a few collabs I'm working with a couple other YouTubers around the Zelda community, so stick around for more by slapping that subscribe button and let me know what you think of these details I noticed in the comments below.